We have been waiting 9 years for Witchbrook's release, and this winter just seems too far away. So today, we're diving into the history of this witchy life sim RPG to keep the content cravings at bay, and maybe figure out what exactly we should expect from this upcoming indie game. My name is Sylvie, I deep dive into upcoming games for fun, and Witchbrook has been my most ambitious project yet, with several social media platforms worth of information to dig through for 4 juicy categories. 1. What have fans historically, and to this day, wanted to see in the game? 2. How have popular books, games, and other media influenced the magical world of Witchbrook? 3. What have the devs previously told us they were going to include? And most importantly, 4. What's the romance and socializing like? Despite the long wait for updates, Witchbrook's developers have done a fantastic job of taking in feedback from the game's fans during development. But what exactly has the community been asking for over the years? When it comes to school, people have always loved the idea of being accepted into a magical school and playing through their time there from admission to graduation. People have mentioned having class schedules and elective subjects, studying and socializing opportunities like school breaks or field trips, distinct school houses and a point system to compete with each other, magical sports and events, and even the ability to break school rules in both harmless and nefarious ways. The desire for dark or forbidden magic has been huge, with some people suggesting an ancient lost magic, punishments like expulsion, and even a black market to sell illegally grown or crafted goods and services. The idea of using magic on NPCs in both good and bad ways has been mentioned a lot, including a way to have magical duels, and everyone has agreed that having different fields of magic is important in a game like this, suggesting specific ways of implementing magic to everyday life through skill trees, mini-games, and astrological cycles, to name a few. It has been very clear that people want engaging NPCs with a lot of satisfying, non-repetitive dialogue, as well as the ability to learn from the characters they meet, join groups or cliques, create rivalries, and maybe even have a familiar to join them on their magical journey. What fans want to see from friendships, romance, and marriage has been talked about often, including unique buffs or items from specific NPCs, or dirty secrets from prominent families. My favourite suggestion was having families with unique values, kind of like the Weasleys versus the Malfoys. And of course, character growth from beginning to end seems really important to the community. Vibes-wise, players just want something similar to Stardew Valley, but with magic and mystery to give it its own charm. To the community, this means a beautiful world to explore, secrets to find, and lots of ways to make the game unique for each and every player. Let me know your thoughts on this community feedback in the comments, and maybe subscribe if you'd like to join my growing community of inquisitive minds. With that said, combining player desires with the media which influenced the game to begin with gives us a better idea of what the upcoming Witch Life sim will be like. The devs drew inspiration from a range of media for different elements of the game. The idea of a magical school was inspired by Hogwarts, but the devs wanted to take that idea and make it their own with a more practical magic system like Tiffany Aching, Old Kingdom, Studio Ghibli animations, and even Steven Universe, whilst their original concept for combat was based on 2D Zelda games with spells instead of weapons. When looking to other games for inspiration, they wanted to create a world filled with the same captivating charm that Stardew Valley, Harvest Moon, and Rune Factory had, whilst expanding on the genre thematically and mechanically to make it their own. But why is any of this stuff important? Well, we can look at sources of inspiration for clues, and the devs have been actively listening to their community ever since the first teaser GIF was released on Twitter in 2016. We received a lot of information about what the devs wanted to include in the game via interviews and Twitter posts between winter 2017 to spring 2018, although updates have definitely slowed down down since then. When it came to core experience, the devs wanted players to have a world which was inherently entertaining and charming to just be in, similar to Studio Ghibli works and the popular farming sims I mentioned earlier. Witchbrook's map was meant to be practically fully explorable by players without giving off the feeling that the world revolves around them. Instead, they wanted it to feel fully autonomous, like the player is just another person in a town full of people. Introducing a school to the village life sim genre brought in unique versions of familiar elements like crafting and farming, along with different kinds of magic and potion making. This type of school was meant to bring feelings of nostalgia with memorable moments, and the game was meant to be about the player's path through school and how they shape their identity in a magical world. Of course, magical proficiency would be developed through school projects like growing magical crops and creatures in herbology, or taking on the denizens of the forest in elemental magic. And the devs even mentioned a spell activation feature where you could unlock and combine elements to use in combat. Of course, the game's dungeon would be full of rewards, and there would be plenty of quests and side quests for players to complete. The devs also wanted the game to be very replayable, like Stardew Valley, and considering I have 270 something hours on PC alone, that would be a lot of content to enjoy. This playtime was meant to be achieved by character-centric stories, lots of variety, plenty to explore, and of course, many things to master across playthroughs. I'll definitely be trying this game when it's out, so let me know if you'd like to see a first look or a playthrough on my channel. In 2019, all of these game feature concepts were developed further, with the game's CEO explaining that their path at the time would have players attending witch school, learning magic, and using magic for foraging, crafting, and maintaining the town, because that is what witches were meant to do in the world of Witchbrook. As the town improved, more lessons and school upgrades would be unlocked, and the player's ability to forage materials or even build houses would become better. Potion making, fishing, collecting, rituals, and events were due to be included, and many of them would involve magic of some sort. Along with this, graduation was something players were meant to aim for, and after asking for the community's hopes and wants from the game and its day-to-day life, a design document was released which has since been taken down. The wiki says this document mentioned artifact and stamp collections, duels, expulsion, and familiars, as well as a witch's grimoire, witch permits, forbidden magic, and a couple of very unique sounding places to visit. Whilst all of these areas of the game's development are incredibly interesting, the game's romance and characters are arguably the most anticipated part of the game by far. And by 2017, the dev team revealed that they had a fully fleshed out cast of characters, plus personality tests and lore, and two of these early development characters were named Luca and Adria, although details about them were never revealed. The devs had a lot of plans on how they wanted socializing to work, with a more true-to-life dating system where things could go wrong and lead to relationship breakdowns and breakups. Their idea was to avoid the idealized romance where you can date and marry whoever you want, so that it would be a more nostalgic school experience where players feel like an awkward teenager going to school with a bunch of other awkward teenagers. That meant players would sometimes get caught off guard by how independent the romanceable characters were meant to be, and may even be dumped for behaving the wrong way, aiming for a similar vibe to young adult literature, which definitely makes sense with the media that inspired them. The relationships players built were meant to be a huge part of the game, with a lot of time spent meeting and befriending characters, and attracting villagers as they progressed through the game. Managing villagers and their requests was meant to be a major part of the process, improving their living situations and seeing their stories progress. I am very intrigued by this dating system, and I'll definitely be doing a bigger deep dive into this as soon as we have more information, but development updates and interviews died down from 2020 up till today, other than small pieces of information which are slowly being shared as we build up to the game's release. But if you want to hear more about Witchbrook, you'll need to subscribe to my channel for part 2 of this deep dive series so I don't disappear from your front page. Please let me know what you're looking forward to most about the game, which of these previously talked about features you want to see, and if you have any theories on storylines that could happen. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you very soon.